Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
It is great having you. It's great seeing you, and thank you for being on the I Can Do podcast. I love the energy that you have, your dedication to fitness and to helping other people. That's something that I really appreciate. So I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit. I want to start off by just sharing with the audience where this love and desire
Mm.
for fitness and health, where did that come from? When did that really get
Mm.
started in your life?
Yeah, I started out as a chubby girl way back in from all the way up until I went off to school. Essentially, I was always a little bit overweight, and for the most part, it wasn't really troublesome, except that did intertwine with the way I felt about myself and confidence and what have you. My weight wasn't so much the leading issue. That was kind of a symptom of what was going on about how I felt about myself. But I think it started when I went to nursing school. I'm a registered nurse, and I went off and I very quickly saw the correlation between disease and the way that we treated ourselves and what we were eating. And especially if you come from an ethnic group where there's a predominance of certain diseases. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're saying that we could change the way we eat and we don't have to experience some of these things? Like, you don't have to sit and wait for it because you have a family history or you know lots of people with it. And so that was a big aha right away. And up to this point, I still hadn't worked out or done any exercise or done anything. So it really has been a journey of a changing up the way I ate and realizing that I could change the my body composition. And then it really got to be like a drug of choice, because then I figured out I had some control and I could do this thing that actually made me feel pretty good.
Mhm.
And as time has gone on, in all truth, Benjamin, it has evolved, because now I'm at the stage of my life where I'm like, we can have choices, we can have change, and you don't have to sit around and wait for decline. And it doesn't matter when you start this, but let us start and make changes because we do have options.
Yeah. How long did that take once you started
Mm.
realizing the correlation, obviously, with eating and different diseases? We were just talking right before we hit the record button. Someone else who I just recently had on the podcast, Maxim, he mentioned something very similar as well, where he saw a loved one, then he saw his father. Both of them had a lot of obviously sickness and illness that was really lifestyle related. So you're going through nursing school. How fast did that quickly register for you? Then what did that process actually look like? Was it like an immediate shift, or was it like changes over time?
It's been definitely changes over time, because even what I do now, 2 years, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been doing. It would have felt a little bit far fetched. So it's definitely been an evolution. Um, and we know a whole lot more now. A lot more information has come about, and we just have there wasn't nutrition labels available at one time. We weren't talking about macros. We weren't talking about food groups. And we just saw food very differently. So it started out seeing that, yes, I can make changes in my body. I can feel better. And then it was the one thing of all things that I felt I could keep pushing the envelope on. Like, let's see what we can do. I wasn't, there's a spirit of, I was a very quiet child, but you got to watch out for those quiet ones. Um, don't underestimate them,
That's
because they're
right.
thinking all the time. Stuff's going on. So there was a spirit of, I think, almost contrariness, that I just wanted to. I always saw things a little bit differently. And so, and not even contrariness, maybe just wanted to push the envelope and just like dare myself to be able to do something more or different, or what else can I do? Or what, if I do this, what will happen? So, and as time goes on, before children, after children, and then people have expectations about themselves. And I was like, I just want to defy those odds, basically, is what it is.
How did that help you with your confidence? You mentioned that you struggled with confidence at times when you were younger. Talk to us about that transformation as well, because it's typically not just merely the food or the exercise. or the size of our waist. There's typically different things underneath all of that.
There's a lot of that, and it starts very early. If you've got young children, they start out one way and they see the world so differently, and by time somewhere between 7 and 10, they start to see things a little bit differently. So that early, I want to say, programming, or those messages that we've learned early on about ourselves and how we see ourselves, some of us still carry that way into our adulthoods and maybe for most of our lives. And so weight and body transformation has been a helpful factor in the way that I saw myself, but also allowed myself to see that I had a lot of control. I could change things by what I did for myself. And now it's at the place where I realize how many women, especially of my demographics, that I can help them know that your body will respond to change. Don't rule yourself out, and just don't go with that popular trend, or the story is about you should expect aging to be awful. Aging is a good thing. Remember, children want to be 2, I'm 3, I'm 3.5, I'm nearly 10, I'm going to be 16, I'm 18. At some point in time, we start bragging about our age.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
becomes
that's right.
like,
That's right.
like a negative. But what if?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I come from. What if?
yeah,
What if it can be great?
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love certain statements that you're saying here, pushing the envelope. What if? What are some of the upper limits? There's a book called The Big Leap, and the author talks a lot about upper limits or self-limiting beliefs. What have you encountered with different clients that you have worked with this idea of what if? Because that trend, it is pretty popular. So, for example, the day that we are recording this, when I took my dog Teddy out for a walk today, I saw 2 of our neighbors, and the gentleman, he had his birthday. His birthday was on Saturday. He said, "Yeah, I'm getting old." And I said, "Well, how old are you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm 68." I said, "Well," I said, "you should really be careful with what you say." And they looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you keep saying that you're getting old, or you just keep saying I am old. So if you say that long enough, eventually you're going to believe it, then you're going to act like it." So why is it that so many people find themselves, Lee, in this kind of situation where they do just kind of, go along with the trend? I hear people like in their 40s saying, "Well, I'm just old now." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's like halftime. Like, you're just getting started."
Right.
Why is it that so many people fall into that trap?
And what does that mean? I think some of it we've followed into society's mantra on that. If you go
Yeah.
to a store where they sell greeting cards, it's right there over the hill, and things are falling
Yeah.
apart, things are
Yeah.
falling off. So it's kind of been marketed to us. We're
Mm.
also at a different generation from our parents and our grandparents. We have so much more available to us. We know so much more. We can choose. Now, is it that it's easier to go with that because it requires much more effort to do otherwise?
Mm.
Again, that somewhat defiant nature in me wants to push against that. When people say, "Well, we're getting old," and they say we're, and I say, you speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm just getting started.
I love that.
For a lot of reasons, like being that very quiet, socially awkward child, extremely shy, that wasn't very social. Like, now I feel so much better. So now I get to be that kid that I wasn't.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so, people talk about being back in their teenage years, or no, I actually don't want to do any of those things again. I didn't have that much fun then. So now I can, and I'm going to.
So part of this then, for those who are listening as well, I'm just kind of thinking about this right now, is, be okay, be in the present and face your reality. I was doing a sermon about overcoming worry, and I use an example of someone in the Bible, and just the idea of facing your reality, and that can be tough sometimes, because if we're sick, okay, recognizing, okay, we have an issue here. But whether you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s and 70s, I love this idea. Yeah, you don't need to go back because now you're almost living in the past. That kind of mindset will keep you stuck there if not careful. Then you're going to miss out on the great blessings that you have today and all the wisdom that we've accumulated over the years.
I I had a big revelation a few years ago. I joined this organization, and true to myself at that time, it was kind of a mindset coaching kind of thing. It was a group setting. It was on Zoom. There was a lot of people there, so it was very easy for me to sit in the back row, as it were, and be quiet because that's what I did best, and just observe and listen. But there were things they were talking about that were had me think, what on earth are these people talking about? Because they spoke about things that I had no knowledge of at that point. Like, I can change my thoughts, I can change what I believe. Well, wait a minute. I've been running with this story about myself for all these years. I can change that story and not believe that anymore. Maybe it was true at that time. It served me at that time. Is it serving me now? Coming to a place of peace with wherever you are at this moment, whoever you are, and embracing that. I'm really learning to be good in the moment. Yes, there are things I still want in life. And I love helping women get to that aha moment where they break loose of feeling contained, and that you can reach for more. It doesn't matter what stage of life you are. Maybe that thing served you then, but is it serving you now? We have this one life to live on earth. And I just feel like we should max it up and just live like every day is, I don't know, 1999.
That's exactly right. Well, let me ask you this question because someone may push back. So,
Yeah.
yes, we should push the envelope and what if. How do you know, Lee, or how do you coach your clients where I don't know if this is the right term of like when do you know that you've arrived or
Mm,
when or staying in the moment where you can actually be content. One of the dangers, especially today, is people constantly want to push the envelope more,
mhm.
more, or even when they have like a major success in their minds, they could be saying, but there's still more I can do. I can still go over and
Sure.
does that make sense? Like, how do you
Yes.
navigate this potential extreme of, okay, we're not in the past anymore. We want to keep pushing forward. At the
Hmm.
same time, we don't want to miss out and not smell the roses along the way.
Right. I think there definitely has to be a spirit of contentment also, and be good with where you are right now. Yes, there are more things coming, but there's not a landing spot. I help women with weight loss. There isn't a landing spot. You get there and ta-da.
Mm,
It doesn't work that way. Life evolves. So be where you're good today. Kind of think of a lily pad. So I'm on this lily pad today, and I'm going to navigate how to get to the next one. There may be several around me. It's not just one. So I'll get to that one and observe the view, feel peace, listen to your inner self. You'll know if you're in a good place. If it's tight, if it's angst, if it's doesn't feel good, back that up. That's not the direction. Listen to your true self knows what you really, really want. And oftentimes I work with women, and I want people to come to a place of peace and not be fighting with themselves.
mm.
In that, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want to do this, I want to be here. But inside, that's not giving you peace. So do what you truly, truly, truly want. Maybe you will have that, but maybe it's not right now. And allow yourself to naturally go there, go with the flow, like children do. They go with the flow and they do what makes them feel happy. They're spinning, they're hopping, they're twirling. I wish we could go back to some of that, but I really
Do some
do.
cartwheels. Yeah, do some cartwheels. Well, I actually with
But
my son, he's 11, and
yeah,
there's something about, being able to hold on to that mindset,
it's
that attitude, and we get so caught up with performance and results and productivity. There's definitely a place for that. That's what I believe. But I
yep.
love what you just said. I'm taking some notes here too. There's not a landing spot. And this sounds so familiar, and I'm glad you brought that up because it seems like at times people say, okay, give me, and I don't know how you work it. I want to hear more about it. people may say, okay, what can I do in 90 days? And then after the 90 days, they kind of have like this relapse, or it's like, okay, I've arrived. So what you're telling your clients then, if I'm hearing you correctly, is okay, well, yeah, you've hit the 90 days, but that's not the end. It's almost like a check-in, or okay, now let's see where we go from here.
Right. It's almost a warm up.
Mm,
I've done coaching programs myself as a client, and I might not have got to where I wanted to go at the end of it. And I had to work with, okay, did you do everything? Did you apply yourself fully? Did you ever take advantage of everything that was offered? And maybe it just got me to another level so that when I work with somebody else or did something else, I'm now ready for that. I've been taking stepping steps along the way. I've been taking the lily pad. I've got lots of places I want to go, but I must be okay with where I am right today. Otherwise, that agitation stays, and that won't bring into you what it is you want. So rather than we trying to jump over there and get far away, and I want to get that, the house and the car and the marriage and the zip code and the career, and it's just things. And then we lose that just being ourselves and just being peaceful where we are. What am I to learn here? What am I to give here? Why am I here? What am I to do at this point at this junction? What
mm.
am I to get? Maybe I just sit still for a minute. That takes a lot to get to there. And I'm getting coaching to learn
All
these
right.
things also. It's
Yeah.
some of peace in the valley.
Peace in the valley. I love that. I was going to ask you, I'm curious, how do you stay in today? So obviously you're busy, and maybe that's not even the right word. I've been trying to eliminate this idea of being busy or I don't have time. It's a 30-day challenge, and I know you're into a lot of different challenges, but just eliminating the language of I don't have time, or if I had more time.
Mhm.
So let me rephrase that. How do you stay in today?
Right. Well, I've figured out, I thought I was a multitasker. I
Mm,
believed that for a long time. Come to find out, I just have trouble focusing, is
mm,
what it really is. And I'm starting this and starting that. So I do make a list of things that are important for me to accomplish each day it helps me with focus. Um, and to just be mindful, be present with yourself, slow things down and ask yourself, yourself, not other people and things, looking at social media and see what other people are doing, but to really connect with yourself and say, what do I need today? And we all have the same 24 hours. I do feel sometimes like I run out of time, but then I ask myself, well, did you really, or were you goofing off doing something that wasn't productive? Is it a lack of focus or was it a lack of time? Because I think the most important things will get done if it's really that important. And sometimes I just need to keep talking to myself. Okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. These are 3 things you need to do today, Lee. Talk to myself in the third person. And
mm.
so you will really need to do that. And I look at it from a realistic standpoint. If I'm doing this call at this time to this time, and I've got time for maybe a tea break or go outside and I don't know, just get some sun rays for a few minutes, and then you can do this thing. So realistically, does it work out on the clock? Yes, you can actually do that. There is enough time to make those things happen. And then whatever else you get to do, fantastic. So have peace and grace with yourself, see what you can really do. And I think the things that really need to get done will get done. And if it doesn't get done, maybe it wasn't supposed to get done today. Maybe it'll get done tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, I've been focusing a lot on morning routine. I liked what one person said too, even changing it to the morning ritual. There's something even more, I think, maybe more impactful with just changing that word up just a little bit. So,
Right.
staying focused with that, and understanding what, priorities you mentioned earlier. And I definitely could relate to that as well, where I'm trying to remember what you said when you were talking about after you were a registered nurse. Oh, I think it was something about how just exercise kind of became like not a drug per se, but just something you really love to do. I love to exercise. It feels good. Yeah, I get a lot of different creative thoughts and things like that. What are some other benefits that people are going to be able to get with exercise? Not just merely what the scale says, but what do you try to emphasize as you're coaching other women about the benefits of exercise?
Right. So many things. How you feel, it helps with your confidence. Because when you can master that thing, even if you're not mastering it, you've got started. You made a commitment to do this thing, whether it's to walk 20 minutes a day. And the first day it's yucky, and the second day it's yucky, and for a week it's yucky, and it's like, oh, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But you did it, and you can give yourself credit for that. And then you
Yeah.
start to notice that it becomes to be less yucky. Now your endurance is better. You feel a little stronger. You feel a little bit more accomplished. Now your posture starts to change. You're standing more taller. You feel more erect in your posture. You're starting to notice some difference in your tone, or maybe things are getting a little looser. And so you start to feel the whole benefits. Maybe you're working on bone density. Maybe you're working on muscle tone. Maybe you're working on endurance so that you're not as winded anymore. You can get up and do something and feel like you're doing something to enhance your health or to help you to feel better. Remember, the prime years of my life, maybe, because that's arguable, but in my youth is not the time I maximized my ability, my natural given ability to move my body. I talked myself out of it. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not athletic. I can't run. I was happy just to come in third to last. I didn't care at all. I'm not competitive. I don't have good hand-eye coordination. Those are all the stories I told me myself. And now I've changed that story and then using it to help me to feel better in my clothes, to encourage women that I don't care how old you are, you can feel good. It's not about a weight. I don't even own a scale, by the way. Maybe I should, but I can get access to one if I need to. But it's all the other wins. And I promote non-scale victories.
Yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question about your philosophy with respect to the scale. So I threw back in 2016, 2017, I was working with Bill Phillips. He wrote the book Body for Life and Eating for Life, and he used to produce EAS supplements. I always loved following him, and I got a chance to work out with him and to do a couple of speaking engagements at his gym. One of the things that I did, I really changed my philosophy on the scale. I made a video where I threw the scale away, and I think I was maybe weighing once a month or 3 times a month to get like an average at the beginning or the end.
Right.
It has changed some. So I got on the scale January 8th, and it was a sticker shock, and I was like, "What happened here?" So I've been weighing for the most part every day. I've taken some days off, like when I travel and things like that. So it's actually given me a different perspective. And I know
Mm.
there's different things. There's a book called the Every Other Day Diet. A professor from the University of Illinois wrote it. She talked about how those who weighed every day tended to lose a little bit more weight. But I also know people who are so, what's the term? Obsessed with the scale, and if it goes up, everything is just ruined. It's like an all or nothing. So I know you don't own a scale, which is fantastic. I love the idea of non-scale victories. How would you coach someone, who wants to keep track of this, or if they're trying to decide, should I keep it? Should I get rid of it? What are your thoughts about that?
Definitely keep it. I don't expect people to live to, maybe be so hardcore about it, but maybe once a week. Your weight will fluctuate for sure, just like your pulse will, your heart rate will. It fluctuates all the time on how hydrated you are, rest, stress. Did you just travel? Were you on a plane for a long time? Are you holding water? For a woman, where is she in a cycle? If that's still applicable, there's so many things. So don't use that purely. Maybe check once a week, twice a week, but don't let that be the only thing that you're looking at. Look at, again, the non-scale victories. How do you feel? How are your clothes fitting? How is your energy? How is everything else that you're doing? How's your hydration? Are you moving? How do you feel? How are you getting some deep REM sleep in? So don't let that be the only thing, because it doesn't tell you what your muscle mass is, and it doesn't tell you necessarily what your body fat percentage is. That's going to be a better indicator of what's going on. Because if you're building muscle, your weight might not be coming down so much. It might look like you're plateaued. By the way, plateaus are normal. Your body's just not going to go sliding downhill. It's always trying to rescue to make sure that's really what you want to do. And so it's a lot of things. And that's why, and that's where coaching comes in. That's where I love helping people, because they don't know necessarily all of these things. And they think if the scale, like you said, doesn't show us what we want it to show, we think, oh, it's terrible, I failed. I'm like, no, you just give your body a chance. Just give your body a chance.
Yeah, the plateau is a dangerous time. It could be a good time or a dangerous time, depending upon the stories that we tell ourselves. So that's where that routine really comes in. I want to talk a little bit about coaching. You're a registered nurse. When did coaching get on your radar, and how did you get into coaching?
Yeah. Um, Towards the end of my nursing life, I knew that there was something else I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew there was something else that I was feeling called to. And I would just stand there and think, what is it? And I noticed over time I was moving towards a more holistic approach to health. While Western medicine for sure has its place, absolutely, and I'm grateful for it, but I could start to feel the shift in myself, and wanted to go with different methodologies, especially on the preventative end of healthcare, which is really, I've found out, is what I was doing was sick care.
Mm.
I didn't know there was a difference between sick care and care for a long time. I started working with a company that was a medically supervised weight loss program. And that's really where things blossomed from. And so I took a big leap leaving the hospital scene, because what I heard one day was, get.
Get
And I
out.
was like, get out. And I was
Mm.
like, that was not my voice. And I knew it was time to make that shift. It was a big jump, because it was, being in the hospital, and I was very senior there, had a lot of stability, into something that was essentially, I didn't know how it was going to go. But I'm glad I followed through on that. And I've come to love it, love it, love it, love it. I'm been coaching for, let's see, maybe about 8 years now. And
Mm.
I just love it. It just makes me excited to be able to help people when I see the light get turned on, and I can tell they feel better,
Yeah.
because it's hard to feel good and great and not want to share that with other people. That
Yeah.
would be weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about your coaching program. Where can people find you, and what kind of clients are you looking for that
Mhm.
would be in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish?
So I work primarily with women in their 40s and 50s. They tend to be business professionals, and so they're very busy in their working life, their professional life, and where image still is very much an issue. We'd like to think that everything is nice and even, but the truth of the matter is, a woman's going to be looked at a little bit differently, and she's also going to be judged, herself. She judges herself, but also others, by the way that she presents. And also, she's healthier. She's going to be a much better employee, because she feels better. She's showing up regularly. She's not taking time off sick because she has inflammatory issues. So she wants guidance and coaching on. She's highly accomplished, but that one thing is the one thing that she struggles with the most, and that's controlling her weight, especially as she's in those 40s and 50s demographics, and she thinks that she cannot have weight loss success, and she thinks that she's aging, and she's going to be stuck in this body that annoys her to no end. So those are the women that I get really excited working with, and getting them to the place where they can lose the weight for the last time. I'm going to rephrase that: release the weight, because one of the things is, if we tell ourselves we're losing it, then our
Yeah.
subconscious wants to go find it. We don't want to find it ever again. We want to release it and let it go.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so let it go, and be in the body that you want to be in, and enjoy that going forward. And so you can find me on becoachedbylee.com, which is my website. And then also you can find me at Coaching by Lee on Instagram. So those are the best places to find me.
Yeah. Why do you think we want to find that weight after we release it?
Good question. Because in our hearts of hearts, especially if we struggle all along, or oftentimes, we do not believe that we can sustain it, or we may not believe that we can lose it, and we may not believe, because we've struggled with it in the past, that we can be successful. So it's a belief. Even when we get to where we want to go, I'm hanging on to those clothes just in case.
Yeah.
and one can argue both sides for that. But it's, especially as women, we struggle with image a lot,
Yeah.
and how we see ourselves. We're our worst critic. And when a woman, even she's doing well and she's being successful and she's doing all the things that happen, but she's still saying, we'll see. So
Mm.
she's not fully committed, not that she's not committed to her health, but she's still not fully trusting that she can be successful.
How do you help someone then like that? I can relate to that, and I know men, I'm sure, can relate to that as well. I can also relate to when I had my biggest success. Once I got out of a certain size of clothes, I donated them, or I gave them away. And there's something like, burning the ships, so to speak, of no, there's no going back. But this idea of like we will see, it's very subtle. So how would someone who's listening to this, maybe they're thinking that's exactly me, or at times it can feel like once you release the weight, maybe 20 pounds, 25 pounds, it's almost like you have like this grip of okay, now I'm just trying to hold on. Where is that
Mm.
coming from? Is that just the thought cycle that just needs to be upgraded? Give us some more thoughts on that.
Yeah, it is a lot of the messaging that we say to ourselves, and we go back to the past. For the most part, a good 90% of our thoughts are in the past.
Mm,
And a good percentage of that, 3/4 of that, is negative messaging.
mm,
We look in the mirror, oh, look at me, this is sticking out, that, and
mm.
I'm this, I'm never. We don't say very affirming things to ourselves. And even when somebody pays us a compliment, we almost can't really receive it. Oh, those are lovely shoes. Oh, these are old.
Yep.
And
That,
like,
that
oh, I
that's in
got this
that.
from some thrift market. Like, what?
Yeah, that's in that book, The Big Leap. He calls it, the author is Gay Hendricks, that's his name. And he calls it deflection, where not even receiving that compliment. So it's almost like, no, I really don't deserve this compliment, or I really haven't done enough to actually believe it to be true. So we push away, these positive feelings and things like that. It's something as small as that, but that's something that happens quite a bit.
Right. And you hit the word. It said it's not just belief, but deserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we don't think we deserve it, and as a women pack are, we're not always kind to each other. And so, a beautiful woman might walk into a room. She looks amazing. Her skin is just her hair, her clothing. She looks fantastic. And a woman will say, but it's not what she means. I hate her.
Mm,
What she means is, I love everything about her.
mm,
So we have a lot of things going on. We're an interesting breed, and by the same token, we do admire people who are confident.
yeah.
Hopefully, if we're good with ourselves, who's confident in herself and can show up fully and walk into a room and be okay with who she is, however that looks, because it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't matter if she's cute or not. If she's confident, that shines even brighter, and it's people gravitate towards that. So it's owning that and being okay with that. Just like when we were little girls, we were oblivious to our mismatched clothes or disheveled hair. And somewhere along the line, we just started to not feel that great about ourselves.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, philosophy then with social media? We know there's a lot of research, particularly with women, young girls, on the negative effects of social media. We know that there are so many different filters that are out there.
Mhm.
What's your recommendation for navigating the Instagrams, now the threads, the TikTok?
Right.
Everyone, wants to talk about fitness and things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, fortunately, I'm thinking for my demographic, we grew up when none of that was really about, and all our goofy outfits were mostly only on actual photographs and not on in the judicial space forever.
Yes.
And in some, so we've got that. It does play a part, yes, for the younger woman.
Yeah.
For my demographic, yes, it is there, but I think we hopefully know enough to know that, what is their journey? How long did it take to get there? what does it take to maintain that? It's, you know, we may see what we see. And I get clients that say things to me like, well, but you've always been skinny. I'm like, no, that's not the case. What you see is what you see today. You don't know what it takes to get here and what it takes to maintain that. We don't know the backstory
Mm,
of, we see people at their crowning glory. You see somebody who's in a movie, or they brought out a book, or they're making headlines in this way. But what we don't see is the backstory and what it took to get there.
mm,
And in all truth, many of us are not really willing to put in that work to get that and stay there.
yeah. So, what does your routine look like? I don't want to know necessarily all the details, but on a given week, what's your routine look like with exercise, recovery, days off? Take us through your life.
Well,
So we can
as
better.
of this week, I'm exercising every day, apparently, because I'm doing a 28-day challenge, which requires 30 minutes of exercise every day. And
Yeah,
I probably won't do much more than 30 to 45.
yeah.
And it'll take some self-talk to do that. I don't, in the last couple of years, I've exercised a lot less than I used to. Uh, uh, Ironically, you'd think I'd be working out a lot, but I got into the best shape of my life in COVID honestly, it was an amazing time, an
Wow.
opportunity to really hone in and focus. I make my food choices are, they're an automatic and a given. I make sure I get my groceries in on Monday's work for me to get the things I need to set me up, myself up for the week. So my week can flow. My weeks, I've got a lot going on, and it's not time efficient for me to be going to the shop daily or every couple of days to get things so I can eat well. So I set myself up on a Monday. It's a priority. It doesn't matter how busy I am. That kind of has to happen. So I'm set up for the week, and I can make my good choices. I focus on proteins. I focus on whole foods. I don't really deviate much because it's well established at this point, and I get what I need. Um, Really focus on getting adequate sleep. I definitely focus on getting my water every day. I do water before coffee every day. That's a new routine I started in the last 2 years. I do have quiet time in the morning. I plan my mostly a time of gratitude and quietness, and then focus on what needs to happen that day. So I'm intentional about what happens. I'm not just reacting, but I have some things in place and focus on what I need to have happen each day. So it's starting the day off with hydration, it's quiet time, maybe a little stretch and movement, maybe look at some socials or email if there's anything pressing, get on with my work day, take care of business after that, and go forward and make sure that the big tasks get addressed. Movement is a couple of days a week. And eating is pretty smooth. As long as I've got good things available at home, I'm not concerned. I don't meal plan. I literally just open the fridge and I'm like, what's it going to be? Because I know it's in there.
Gotcha. So when you do all the prep on Mondays, it's not necessarily like cooking like for the entire week. It's just making sure you have everything in the house that you need.
Don't cook.
Don't cook. Tell us why. Why not?
Because I'm selective about the way I use my time and energy, and I choose not to do it with that. Having said that, I do have a 12-inch skillet, which I use for most things in an air fryer. And I think with those two things, I can make everything happen. I
Mm,
can make my own whole meal in a 12-inch skillet. So I put things together. When you're eating whole foods, other than, yes, meat requires a bit more cooking, hence the air fryer, it's pretty simple. But when I
mm,
want to eat, I want to eat, and I want to eat, well, kind of now. And so it needs to be ready to be on a plate 15 minutes props.
So it's just you're just in the moment. When it's time to eat, that's what you're gonna do. You're just gonna cook it and eat. Okay.
It's time.
No, I
I
like
know,
that.
I know
It,
more or less when it's going to happen. It's not like a wandering, because it depends.
okay.
I have to think, okay, I've got this event and I've got this thing. So your window of time to eat is here. You need to make it happen here, or you need to eat here. And so in my mind, I've got it kind of figured out. I'm not usually stumbling. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten in so many hours and I'm famished, and what shall I do? Because I already kind of know the order of my day. So I've thought about, when's the best time to do that. You're going to have to eat enough over here, or you better make sure you can make it through because your next opportunity is over here.
What are your thoughts or philosophy recommendation with free days or what they used to be called cheat days? what are you doing? Is it, if you want a piece of dark chocolate, or if you want a donut, you're just going to go ahead and eat it? Give us some thoughts with that.
Yeah, I have to I'm very, very selective about, so I might have an exception, what I call it an exception. It's a planned exception. So I'm going to think about it. I don't keep a lot of those things around me at home. It's just, it doesn't work. It's best I just don't have the availability of them. So if I choose to have something, I may go to the store specifically to get maybe that piece of dark chocolate. I'm going to enjoy it with some protein or some healthy fat and move on. I'm not going to have an whole day of offness,
Mhm.
let's call it.
Yep.
But I'm going to have something sometimes, and then just. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't go there too much because it could be a slippery slope.
Yes, I agree. No, I'm the same way. If it's in the house, I'm going to probably find it at some point in time. Not probably, I
Right.
will find it. So I've done that before, where if there's some kind of leftover, I just throw it away. And it's so interesting how the mind works, because I actually like feel a little bit bad, or like a few hours later, I'm like, why did I do that? So there's always like this back and forth. So everybody has to really understand who they are, and what's going to work the best for them, for sure. Yeah.
So have peace with it. So if you're going to have that thing, have
Yeah.
the thing, enjoy it, and move on. Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the hardest things, I think, for a lot of people, right? Where they feel like, okay, I can never have this again, or it almost just adds another level of pressure. But I like that approach as well. So you've talked about pushing the envelope. Sounds like throughout your life you have taken these leaps. What's next for Lee?
Ah, yes. So definitely, I love the podcasting space. I've just sent my manuscript for a book to the publisher, so I'm waiting to get
Oh,
approval
really?
that I can publish that. And that's a book about my early nursing life and my transition over to working in the US. And so,
Yeah.
pre-digital era and the different cultures. So that's my first and fun book, and then I'm going to put out some different ones. I'm featured in a book called Healthopedia, where I'm writing a chapter in there also, so that's very exciting. And so, who knew? People said, I didn't know that you're right, and I said, neither did I. Apparently apparently I can do that. So it's like, what else can I do? Let's I love this thing called life. I have a lot of abilities, and I feel like I want to maximize that. So use this voice that I kept in a box for many, many years, because I didn't speak. I was shy and introverted and socially awkward. So I didn't speak. So I've got all those years of being quiet to catch up for.
Yeah.
And so use my voice for what am I here for? What am I to do? Whose life am I to impact?
Yeah.
And just to show up and stop hiding already.
Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you for sharing that here. That is certainly an I can do attitude. I'd love to read the books. Please let me know when they're
I
available.
will.
And definitely will spread the word with that. So let me ask you, are you starting a podcast as well? I know you're on podcast. Is that something else in your future, since you are wanting to share your voice more?
Absolutely. And so I have started one, and I haven't haven't put too many things in there recently, but I actually kind of started it and started it again. I took some of my longer ones out and put more sound bites in, so that people can listen in 10 minutes or less. And so that's on Anchor, Spotify, and that is called Scale Slayer.
I love that skill player. I love that. So with books, I have to ask, what books do you recommend? I love to read. I'm reading a number of books right now. So I've set a new goal to read 5 books each month, which is basically a book a week. I've started doing a lot more with Audible too, Lee,
Uh-huh.
where I drive a lot. And so in the morning time, if I'm walking or something like that, it looks like you already have a book in your hand. What are you
I'm
reading?
looking at my playlist. So one of them I
Yeah.
can see from here, and it's Atomic Habits, which I
Yes.
really love. You may
Yes,
have read that already.
I have. Yeah.
a very beautiful book that I think is great on Audible. It is slow and just endearing. It's called The Boy, the Mole, Fox, and the Horse.
Hmm.
It's a very quick read. It is very beautiful. It's very introspective, and it was recommended to me several times. And eventually I gave in and said, "Oh, okay, let me listen to this book and see what it's all about." And it's just beautiful. It's just a
Okay.
beautiful book.
Yeah.
A lot of the things I read are really about personal growth.
Mhm.
I'm reading currently, what is it called? It is called, because I always call the title wrong, Blue Ocean Strategy.
Hmm. I've heard of that.
That's by Chan Kim and Renee Borgoni. I can't say that properly.
Mhm.
And things like The Power of Positive Thinking and books along those lines, As a Man Thinketh. And
Yeah,
so really looking at
I
those
read
kind
that
of
this year.
books.
I read that in
Uh,
January. Yeah.
yes. Books by, say, Bob Proctor. And just there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful books out there. And just, thinking about the way that we think, kind of really digging into this personal growth space,
Yeah.
because it really helps me as a human, as a person. It also helps me as a coach to be a better coach.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that. I have not read the Blue Ocean Strategy or the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I did
Yes.
read As a Man Thinketh. Atomic Habits is really good. James Clear, if I'm remembering the author's name.
Excellent. Yeah.
He also has a really nice newsletter. So if you subscribe to that, or those who are listening,
Uh-huh.
he sends something out, I think once a week or maybe a couple of times a week with three different thoughts. So that's really good. I read a book recently called, or actually it was on Audible, The Stress Prescription, which is
Oh.
really a fantastic book. Yeah, The Stress Prescription. And even with Audible, you can still get the PDFs and things like that. So right now I'm reading a variety of books, but I really like the self-help books as well, and those really resonate with me too. Well,
Have you read
Lee,
The Four Agreements?
I've read the Four Agreements. I read them a number of years ago. I read it a number of years ago. I was listening to another podcast. Someone mentioned it. I said, you know what? Let me go back and take a look at it. So one of the agreements, I believe it's be impeccable with your speech. Um, don't take anything personal. And so I was really thinking about that a little bit more. That's the challenging thing to do at times. But yes, I just recently took a look at that and kind of refreshed some of those thoughts with it. What stood out to you? Do you remember
Those are two
the
good. It's
agreement?
not taking things personal. That's a really good one to work on. And what's great about any of these is that you read it at one point and then you come back to it again at another time and you hear it a little differently. Something different lands because you're at a different place. And
Yeah.
so, and sometimes we listen, we hear it, but we're not really taking it all in. So revisiting. Sometimes I've read a couple of books where I read them over and over and over again, just back to back, just kept going. So, and I heard something different every time.
Mhm. Yeah, that's something interesting to do. And I've kind of been in a phase here lately where I've actually sold a few books. I've had a lot of different fitness books. I was telling you, my wife and I went to Half Price Books in Dallas recently. We were in the health and fitness section. And throughout the years, I've just bought so many different books. And she's like, yeah, you had that book there. And I was like, no, I didn't. She's like, yes, you did. And when I looked at it, I was like, yes, I did. And then, just all these other books. So I love this idea of almost like research, diving into it. And then eventually in the process of time, it sounds like that's where you are right now. After a while, you kind of have it figured out. And once you figure out what's working, sticking with that and just staying the course. And so there's something really unique about that. So it's something that I have on one of our bookshelves where just certain books that have stuck a little bit more. So going back and reading those books, I found this psychologist from the 1930s and 40s, David Seabury. I
Hmm.
started this journey last year on studying on worry, and he had some really good books on that as well. So I love finding different authors and thoughts and things like that out there. So thank you very much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Appreciate your time today
Yeah, this has
and the
been great.
conversation. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Final thought for the audience.
Start where you are. Start where you are and really, really focus on spend the time thinking about what you really want. What you really, 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 really want. And thinking about what would your ideal day look like if there was no obstacles in the way? I don't mean, that you could fly or you could be taller, but within the realm of the natural order of things, um, what would you really, really want? And I think we get so caught up in what needs to be done that we don't take that time. You kind of go back into childhood when we could think about things. Child said, I want to be a pilot, I want to be this, and you know, what would you like? What would you like for each day? What does it look like, your ideal day? And that takes a minute because most of us don't really think about that. So focus on how you look, how you feel, your energy, where are you? What are you eating? What would be your ideal state of being?
Yeah. Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.